So my name's Ian Anderson, I'm a videographer with Pond5 and I shoot a lot of gritty scenes, a lot of social issues and always trying to tell quite an authentic story, especially with things for documentaries. So I film quite a lot of law and order scenes. I filmed in prison, which relates to my proposal. And just trying to capture a feeling in the shots that aren't stereotypical and go beyond a bit more than the kind of what would be stereotypically associated with stock footage. So my proposal is to shoot a concept film for a true World War II story. My grandfather Will Anderson was captured outside Dunkirk, and he was identified as a dangerous prisoner in terms of what he could do, potentially with escape. So he was held in a fortress in Germany called Colditz Castle, which was really imposing. It's described by PR readers as a fairy tale castle. So that's something I would like to capture, is filming there is this kind of almost almost supernatural side to it, where it's very imposing and setting the scene for how hard it would be to escape. He was placed in solitary confinement, so that's something I would like to capture in a concept trailer, is how the struggle of the odds are against you. You've got very strict captors keeping an eye. They put you in a context that the hardest of all to escape from, and you're not being fed well, and you're being thrown into solitary confinement. So it'd be really interesting to have an actor there who was kind of given a sample of that, what it would be like to be in solitary confinement, maybe for a couple of hours in the lead up to filming. I'm a massive fan of the pianist, and obviously that would be the scale of this is incomparable. But I think that the feeling of placing someone in that situation is very important to lead through to genuine acting. Okay, so what also is important to me is the mentorship side of things, because I've always been, I kind of soak up as much learning as I can, and I think that would be really important to me, is just get advice on how to take this forwards. I think I've got like a raw storytelling ability, and how to kind of hone that. And the script, it's in its early phases of being put together. So getting as much like with drafts, getting as much feedback on that would be amazing. And how to, I think the Colditz story is overdue. It's been 20 years since it was last, and it's never been done as a feature film. It's been a long television series. It was in the 70s, and it's very popular and a good series. But I felt that was, especially to a modern generation, it would just be, because you're dealing with something which is lots of escape attempts. My idea is to kind of hone in on one particular escape attempt, and successful one, but the process and how it was put together, and the struggles and the attention to detail. How would you build a fake gun to fool the German guards? And I've got some great quotes from my grandfather on that. It's how they actually did it, and the tensions involved, and having to sort of work in small teams, work together, and sort of one keep an eye on when the guards would be coming, while another to kind of chipped away at the bed to eventually build a gun. The difficulty in hiding these things from the Germans as well, it must be very intense. And they'd actually be combining, they would have a German guard searching their room, and while they were doing that, they would be measuring with a piece of string the German guard's gun to get the authentic length of the gun. And I think super important to this project is the building of a camera. I think so many people these days, we rely on cameras to tell us stories of our lives, a lot of people on their phones, and I think that would really strike a chord with someone. Is we're given phones and great cameras on our phones now, but if you're placed in a cell with very little, how would you even begin to think of building your own camera? I think that would be a fascinating thing and something quite achievable on a small concept film trailer. And then there's actually an American involvement which probably wouldn't be able to fit, maybe could hint at the end, but in terms of going forwards in the future, what my grandfather did was he helped other people escape. So there's a kind of, and towards the end of the film he's involved in really tense negotiations with the commandant. So you have an interesting relationship here where you have, I think back to Catch Me If You Can, where you have the protagonist and antagonist, they're always at each other, but underlying there's this mutual respect. And you have a situation where you have the SS, who are just downright evil, closing in on the castle. My grandfather's involved in discussions with the commandant, who's the main he's the main person he's against in the film. Then there's this really interesting kind of power struggle, and how that develops it's really interesting. Like I said, it wouldn't be something I would necessarily concentrate on in the concept film, because I really want to hone in on this solitary confinement, the creative escape. But maybe little hints of this relationship in a short sequence. So that's my idea, and I hope it's of interest. And if anyone has any questions, or want to fire ahead at me, I'd love to discuss it with anyone. It'd be brilliant.